Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Hill. I'm a director at LeisureNet. Hopefully, most of you will have seen me at the conference a few months ago where I presented on NPS and explained that we'll be introducing this as from next week now across energy sites. So the purpose of today is to give you an introduction to the platform, the eFocus platform that our NPS service sits on. Hopefully you can all see my screen. I'm on the sign-in or login page of Data Hub, which is the platform that eFocus sits in. And hopefully you can all see the chat box on your screens, which will look something like this. You'll see I've put a couple of messages on there. So if you can find that chat box, if you've got any questions as we go through, please just put them in there. And then as I come to a natural break in the presentation, I'll attempt to answer your questions. Okay, so just a little bit of background to this before we start. The NPS invite emails will be going out next Tuesday the 10th, and they'll be going out to approximately 50% of your active members. These will be sent out centrally. What do we mean by active members? Well, these are members who have visited in the last 2 weeks. So we won't be sending out emails to anyone who hasn't been in the last 2 weeks. And then in 3 months' time, we'll be sending an invite email out to the next 50%, the second tranche, and then in the first quarter of next year, financial year, the first 50% will get them again, and then the last quarter, the second 50%. So in essence, there'll be 4 emails going out, one each quarter, to half of the membership. And this means, the reason we do this is that you'll end up with an NPS for your club every quarter, but we won't be asking members to complete an NPS survey more than twice in a 6-month period. Okay, towards the end of the seminar, I'll be talking a little bit about the support, further support that we'll be offering. But what I'd like to do now is just go straight into a demonstration of the platform so you can understand how to use it. So the first thing to say is that you'll be receiving login details, a username and a password, which will be unique to your club. So I'm going to be showing, demonstrating to you via a demo account. So I'm logging in with my email address and my password. And that brings me onto this page. You can see here that I've logged in as Mike Hill, and you'll see the name of your club here. So I'm logged in as Demo Center 100. What you need to do straight away is to then click on the eFocus Customer Insight. There are a variety of services that sit on Data Hub, but the only one you're interested in at the moment, and it should be the only one showing, is this one here, eFocus Customer Insight. So I'm now going to click on that, and you'll see from the URL at the top that it takes you to eFocus, which is the name of our Customer Insight platform. And on this landing page, you'll see 2 dials on the dashboard. You'll only see these 2 because you'll only have NPS as a service switched on, so the other ones you can see will not be there. And we have 2 KPIs which relate to Net Promoter Score. We have one which is your actual NPS itself, and then we have one that's called the Responsiveness Index, which shows how quickly you're responding back to people who have completed an NPS survey and require a response. And that will make more sense as we go through this, this demonstration. Okay, so that's the dashboard, that's your the 2 KPIs which relate to the Net Promoter Score service, and these are real time, so anytime you log in, you'll be able to see what your current NPS is, and secondly, how well you or your managers are responding to NPS comments. Right, from the dashboard, what you then need to do is look across at the main menu on the left-hand side. And the only service that you're interested in and that will be switched on and live for you is NPS Focus. So we access the sub-menu of NPS Focus by clicking on that drop-down menu, and we have about 10 tabs under NPS Focus. So first of all, I'm going to show you the survey that your members will be completing. So when they receive their invite email, inviting them to complete a very short 2-question survey to let you know what they feel about their membership experience, they'll click on that hyperlink and they'll get this screen come up, but it will be branded up as Energy in your colours and with your logo. So straight away, we're going into the Net Promoter Score question. You can see we've got a sliding scale on 0 to 10. And as they move that up and down, the score is showing on the right-hand side. So I'm going to complete this as a 3 because I'm not very happy with something in particular. And in this box, I'm going to give an explanation that the fitness equipment is always dirty on a weekend. Okay, so just ignore this next section. That won't appear on there, on the survey for Energy. But we're then asking, would they like a response to their comment? Now, you don't have to worry about being inundated with customers who have completed the survey and want a response. Typically, it's only 10–20% of people that will want a response. But let's assume that in this case, I do want a response. I want someone to ring me. I therefore need to give you my name. So I'm filling in the name, telephone number. Depending on what you click here, it's mandatory to then put in the telephone number or the email address. If they want, they can put in the membership number, but that's not mandatory. And we've got our little cover for GDPR at the bottom there. So that's the survey that's now being completed by the member. I'm going to click on Submit and confirm that I want to submit that response. Now, 2 things happen then. First of all, the manager that's been set up in the system will receive an email through like this, just stating, dear manager, a new NPS has been received. Please click here to log into your dashboard to view the comment. Okay, so that's a notification that someone has completed a Net Promoter Score survey, and you'll get one of those for each of the responses as they come in. The second thing that happens is that that completed response will come in to the response folder on the left-hand side. So if you click on that, you get a table which very succinctly shows all of the responses. Each one of these lines is a response with a unique ID, the name of the person that's completed it, the score they've given you, and the submission date. Now you can do a few things with this box. If you click here, it will sort people by alphabetical, by first name. If you click here, it will sort them by the score they've given you. The default is the submission date. The other thing you can do if you really want to, you can search by name. So you can look for all the Michaels that have completed it. Obviously, initially, there will hopefully only be one Michael that's completed. All the responses come into this section here. If you click on one, you get the details of the score they've given you over here, along with any comments, okay? So all responses come into responses. Anyone who wants a response back, a manager to contact them, they'll all come into these folders. So under Actions, we've got a new folder. You can see that my response is also sitting in here because I want a manager to come back to me. So I can now click on that and I get the details of the comment over here, the name, address, telephone number, fitness equipment is always dirty. And this is where the managers then have to do something. They have to do two things. First of all, they have to do what we call categorization. Now, the reason for this is twofold. First of all, in NPS, when you ask the Net Promoter Score survey, you shouldn't ask people to categorize it. It should just be a simple two-question questionnaire, survey. So we then want the manager to categorize it because it helps us with reporting. It helps you to understand what's driving promotion, what's driving detraction. So these drop downs will already be completed for you. So you can choose, say, well, this is about cleanliness in the fitness area, whichever is appropriate to the comment. Now, if it's a 0 to 6, which is a detractor, we want you to categorize it as a complaint. If it's a 7 or 8, which is passive, please put a suggestion. And if it's a 9 or 10, please put it down as a compliment. So that's the 3 things you need to categorize. You then have a box where you would put in your initial action. So I've made the complaint, I've completed the survey, I've asked you to contact me via telephone. So the sensible thing to do would be to run Mike and left a message because he didn't answer his phone. So you put the details of the initial action. The system will record the date and time of that. The name of the manager or the person that you've given us that's going to be doing this will be in this drop-down menu. And then the system's asking you whether it's resolved first time or not. So we have this concept of resolution. The resolution is generally either when you've contacted the person and reached an agreement, or you've at least contacted them and agreed to disagree. But we haven't spoken to them. So this hasn't been resolved first time. So I'm going to leave that as a no, and I'm going to submit that and confirm I want to submit it. That's been updated successfully, and that NPS has now moved to the in progress folder. So what the system will then do is approximately 5 days later, it will email the relevant manager and tell you that you've got outstanding survey responses in your in progress box that need to be resolved. And you can then log in, go to the in progress, and you can open up that and say, oh yes, Mike Hill, he complained about the fitness equipment always being dirty. Here's my first action. I rang Mike and left a message, but he's not rang me back. So I'm going to now run Mike again, spoke to him and assured him extra staff have been put on at the weekend, or whatever the action is, whatever the details are, put them in there. Again, date and time is automatic. Drop down list of the relevant manager. I've completed that second action and I've resolved it second time. So I then press submit. I do want to submit that, and it's now going to be moved into the resolved folder. So we have this nice, easy process to follow. It comes into new. You do your first action. If it doesn't result in a resolution, it then goes into in progress. You then open up an in progress, and hopefully it's resolved after 2 actions, and it will go into the resolved folder. All of the customer contacts that have been resolved sit in here, and again, you can sort them by name, score, submission date. If you've made 2 attempts to contact, if you've spoken to the person and it's unresolved for whatever issue, and you don't want to put it as closed, you can put it into unresolved, which is like a suspension folder, and it can sit there, and then you can reopen it and you can reset it to start that 2-stage process again. But 95% of the contacts that you have with customers will end up being resolved. And generally what we recommend is that resolution is not that you've resolved it necessarily to the satisfaction of the customer. So for example, if they're asking for you to put in a swimming pool, then you know you can't put in the swimming pool. As long as you've spoken to them, explain that, even if they're not happy, that counts as resolved. So that's the definition of resolved. Okay, now that's the first part really, because that shows how the emails are received by customers, how they complete the survey, and then how that comes into the system, how you are notified that it's come into the system, and then this nice simple 3-stage process, sometimes 2-stage, of working way through and just responding. You're only responding to those 10 or 20% of customers that have given you a score, written a comment, and then say that they want to hear back from a manager. Now we're going to put some, the system requires us to put some days in, and at the moment the system's going to be 3 days for an initial response and 7 days for a resolution. And this is important from the point of view of reports, which I'm going to say in a little while. So at the moment, the system will be set up for all clubs that the system expects you to get back to a customer within 3 days and to try and resolve it within 7 days. But if as a club you want that changed, just let Cheska, who's going to be your support account manager initially, just let her know and we can change that for you. Okay, I'm going to pause there and open up the chat box to see if I have any questions. So if anyone's got any questions, hopefully you can find your Zoom group chat box. Type any questions that you have in there. I'll tell you what, just to make sure that everyone's happy. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I got one question. Otherwise, I'm always worried that I've got 18 people out there and no one's heard a word for the last 20 minutes. So thanks for that question, Josh. So typical response rates. Okay, good question. The typical response rates will be between 10 and 25% to the email that goes out. So if we send out 100 emails to your members, I would expect between 10 and 25 responses to come in. And then the next drill down, if you like, is that only 15 or 20% of those are going to want a response. So say we start off with 100 emails going out and we end up with 25 responding. Typically only around 5 of those are going to want a manager to come back to them. So you won't be inundated. They will all come in over a 1 or 2 day period because we're sending them all out in one chunk. We're not sending them out over a period of days or weeks. Second questions come in from Wendy. Can I access the email to respond when the manager is off? Yes, absolutely. So we're still to receive the names and email addresses from headquarters to get you guys set up. When we have received those, we will be emailing out to each individual club with details of how you have been set up centrally. Now that login is an email and a username, the username is the email, and then you'll have a password. Anyone can use that email address as the login and the password, anyone that you obviously are happy to. So you can share the login between several people or restrict it to one person. So in your case, Wendy, the manager, you'll have one login for your club, which the manager can use, but when the manager's off, then you can use it as well. Okay, and if anyone wants to change that login and username, yes, just let your support person know and she can do that. Okay, yeah, members, that's another very good question coming in from Vivashia. Hopefully I've said your name, pronounced your name correctly. Are members able to respond anonymously? Yes, they can. Now, some systems, some NPS systems out there won't let a member respond anonymously. I'm not very good with that word, but we've gone down the route of allowing them to do so. And the reason for that is that it increases response rates, and also it allows people to remain anonymous if they wish to. Now, there are some downsides to it. There are pros and cons, but yes, people can respond anonymously if they want to. But obviously, if they want a manager to come back to them with a response, then they need to tell you who they are. Next question from Josh. Has any analysis been done on non-responders? I fear those members may be the ones at higher risk of cancelling their memberships. Yeah, again, a very good question. Bear in mind that I explained at the beginning that we're only emailing this out to active members, those people that have been in the last 2 weeks. So by default, we won't be NPSing, arguably, those people that are at highest risk of cancelling their membership, because the chances are they won't have been in the last 2 weeks, so we won't be sending them out an invite to do the NPS. Of those people that have been in the last 2 weeks, that we then send them it, if they score you 0 to 6, they are A, a detractor, B, they've come in the last 2 weeks, and C, they're bothered enough to complete the survey to give you the low score and hopefully leave a comment and their contact details so you know who they are. They are the people that we would argue you should focus on, because they're the low-hanging fruit in terms of at-risk members. Because as I've said, they're at risk, they're scoring you low, 0 to 6, they're a detractor, so they may well be thinking of leaving, but they're still attending, and as I said, they care enough to complete the survey. So we would recommend that they are the people, those detractors that complete the survey, are the ones that our system highlights as being high risk, and that you should get back to as soon as possible, make contact with them, try and address their concerns, and hopefully the next time we survey them, they will move up from being a detractor to a passive or a promoter. In terms of sending out texts instead of emails, we've tested this once with an operator over in Ireland, and the response rates were very similar. However, we do have that up our sleeve. We have got the capabilities of doing it. And so if the response rates, for example, are low in your clubs, yes, we could look at complementing the email with a text that goes out. Yep, another good question coming in from Ivashia. The subject line of the email is really important. So the subject line of the email, and these are being sent out centrally by the Energy IT department. They'll come out centrally, not from us. But we're hoping that the email will be something that is specific to the name of the club. So it will say Energy Fulham or Energy Edinburgh, whatever, and then it will say, please tell us what you think, or something very similar. So the important thing is that it will have the name of the club that they are a member at. It won't just be a generic, tell us what you think, complete a quick survey. Because from our experience of doing this over the last 10 years, it's important that people can recognise that it is a communication that is coming from Energy, from the club. And the other thing is that it will be coming from the same email address that they're used to receiving communications from in terms of newsletters, membership communications. So hopefully it won't go into their spam, and it will be interesting enough and personalised enough for them to open it. Okay. Next question, we currently send out general satisfaction surveys. Yeah, that's, again, a very good question. We're doing the NPS every quarter, but only to 50% of the membership. So, as I mentioned before, each member will only be receiving 2 NPS surveys. So if you were getting good value from those general customer satisfaction surveys, and obviously I presume you'll be asking more questions than we're asking, because NPS classic survey should only be the 2 questions, then I don't think you necessarily need to stop doing it, but you need to think about when you send it out. I don't know whether it's a drip feed survey, sent out every day or every week, or whether it's an annual one or 6 monthly. But the main thing you want to avoid is survey fatigue. So you'll have very clearly the dates that we're sending out the NPS. I would just avoid those as much as you can. I would obviously argue we do general customer satisfaction surveys as well. NPS is probably a better score than asking about satisfaction. And you'll see from the reporting that I'm going to go through in a second that you can drill down and get as much detail out of the NPS as you can out of most general customer satisfaction surveys. Okay, so I don't think there's any more questions coming in at the moment. I will ask again in a second if there's any questions, but let me just carry on now to the reporting side of things. And thanks for those questions, some really good ones there coming in. So if we go back over to the menu now, I'm now going to click on reports, and you have some drop-down filters here to generate reports. So you choose the time frame that you want to look at. So I'm going to knock that back about 9 months. You probably won't have this. There'll only be your club, that will be that. And then you can look at different areas. So you can look at your fitness, and these drop down this won't be the drop down you'll have. It'll be much more suited, much more bespoke to your own particular club. But you can look at different parts of your club. So I'm going to leave that on all at the moment, so I get some really good data, and then just press submit. And this is how we generate the Net Promoter Score. So name of the club, the number of surveys sent, and number of responses will probably be blank because that needs to be input centrally by us. So you can ignore that first box. Then we have the detail of the NPS response group. So we got the number of people that have scored you 0 to 6, 7 to 8, 9 to 10, 22, 11 and 7. The percentage that they represent of the total of 40, and obviously that then adds up to 100%. Over here we therefore have an NPS of minus 30%. So 18%, the promoter score, minus 55, the detractor score, gives us an NPS, not very good NPS. Hopefully all your clubs will be much higher than this, of 38, minus 38. The next graph, and all of these graphs, by the way, you can use this legend over here to download. If you want to download and send them to people, download and print them. This is the longitudinal analysis. So month by month, this is where your Net Promoter Score will show, so you can see whether it's going up or down. Of course, yours will only show every 4 months, because we're only doing it every 3 months, because we're doing it every quarter. You've then got the maximum NPS score for the last 12 months. So it'll show you the quarter that you've scored highest, the average over the last 12 months, and the worst or minimum over the last 12 months. Next, what we do is the longitudinal analysis. So this will probably be quite useful because you're only doing it every quarter. This longitudinal analysis looks back over the quarters and gives you the NPS for the quarter. So you can either look at it at this one, but it will only show up every 3 months, or you can look at this one, which will just show you your quarterly scores. So the idea is that over a period of a year, you'll end up with your 4 quarterly scores, and you can see whether it's going up and down. And just bear in mind that if you do have different areas within the clubs, you can look at an NPS for fitness versus pool, etc. But most of the time, because the numbers won't be great, especially to start off with in the sample, you'll probably just be looking at your overall Net Promoter Score. So that's reports. We've then got what we call detailed reports. So these allow you to drill down much more. So for example, you can look at just those NPS, and this is where that categorization comes in. Remember I asked you to categorize the comments as they come in? Well, this allows us to do this reporting. So if we want, we can just look at customer service, and we can just look at the positive ones for customer service. And if we want to drill down even more, we can put in keywords here, like, for example, cleaning. So this will look for any comments which have come in which relate specifically to cleaning. So if I leave that at all and say I'm looking for complaints which have got that word cleaning, I'm going to knock it back. So I want to go back to the start of the year and then submit. It will come up with the number of complaints that relate to cleaning. Now there's none in there. Let me open that up a bit more and you can see, so we get some data coming in. Yeah, let me take that clean word out. Right, so I'm now going to submit it in. I've kept it nice and wide open just so I get some data. So this is the detailed report. It shows working on those filters, the number of complaints, number of suggestions, sorry, compliments, suggestions, complaints, the total. And then it gives you all of the comments which relate to that particular filter. So for example, if I put a filter in here of fitness and resubmit, it will then only show me the comments that have come in via NPS that relate to fitness. So this allows you to really drill down and see what most of the comments that relate to the scoring you 9 and 10, what do they relate to, what do the passives relate to, and what do the detractors, the 0 to 8, what's driving detraction. And again, you can search if you want to by name, you can sort these out by hitting the column. So that's what we call detailed reports. The next report is called analysis and graphs. This one I tested earlier and was taking a fair bit of time to come. Sometimes if there's a lot of data, you'll end up with this running man. It will take perhaps 20, 30 seconds to come through, but hopefully most of you can still see what you're getting. So again, I've got a start and end date. I'm looking at all comments. This first graph here is response time analysis. So this shows how quickly you've got back to a comment with your initial action. And you can see it separate up into 0 to 3 days, 3 to 7 days, etc. This is the resolution time. So how quickly are you resolving? And again, 0 to 7 days, it will show you the percentage of comments that you've got back to that you resolve within a certain period of time. This shows where, for that time period, the comments are currently sitting. Which folder? Are they sitting in unresolved, resolved, first time resolved, second time, new, in progress? And what we're obviously trying to do is keep down the number that are in new and in progress and move as many as possible into the resolved first time, perhaps resolved second time. A final graph here on resolutions. This shows how quickly you resolve it. We've then got a breakdown by activity group. So this is where you have the split between fitness and perhaps group exercise, other areas of the club. This is breakdown by experience. So these are what I call the cross-cutting themes, like cleanliness, customer service, that cut across all of the department or activity areas. And these reports, remember, are based on the categorization that you do in that black box right at the beginning. So it's important that we categorize all these comments because it allows us, it informs these graphs. We've then got some longitudinal analysis. Apologies for the man that's keeping running here. But month by month, you can see the split between fitness and activity, different activity areas. This is a month by month analysis of how many comments that have come in that are positive, negative, and neutral. So these don't relate to the Net Promoter Score. These all relate to the comments. It allows how quickly you've gone back to them, but also how you've categorized them as well. Okay, I'm going to come off that because that running man is annoying me. It shouldn't usually take that long. Just two more drop downs under reporting. This is called Lifecycle Scores. This will only be of interest to you after doing NPS for over 12 months. Because what this does is it starts to track people via their email address to see whether they're going up or down that NPS scale. So when I knock it back a year, I get all of the users by email and I get their first survey, but you'll see here that Harry at One Direction has done two surveys. He's done one survey on the 23rd of August 2019, and he did another survey on the 23rd of August 2019. Obviously, usually there'll be, in your case, 6 months gap between all of these responses. So this shows via email all of those survey responses. So this one down the bottom has done 3 surveys. And you've got the score there for each survey. So what we can then do is start to track whether people are going up and down, because the whole point of NPS is to try and move people up that scale. So when you survey them, they've moved up from detractor to passive, passive to promoter. This then summarizes that. So it will show you within that time frame for all the people showed above, how many people, how many members who have done more than one survey have moved detractor to promoter, detractor to passive, and passive to promoter. And we end up with what we call a progression rate, a percentage, which shows the percentage of members that have moved up at least one group. That's then showed graphically. We then have the opposite of that, unfortunately, a regression rate analysis, which shows everyone that's moved down, promoter to detractor, passive to detractor, passive to, sorry, promoter to passive, and we have a percentage of regression rate. So don't worry about that one too much for the moment. That will come into play 6 months down the line when you start getting completing members who have completed more than one survey. The final thing is extract results. So if there isn't enough analysis and drill down using all of these tools, what you can then do is do a simple export out. This basically gives you all the data, and you can then print it or save it to Excel, etc. They're not shown at the moment, but you'll have the ability, what we'll show here will be Excel or CSV file. So this is all of the data that's shown there, and you can also search within that data if you want. But mainly this is used for doing an extract out into Excel or CSV. Okay, so that's been 40 minutes. That's pretty much spot on timing wise. That's everything I wanted to show you. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. So you'll be getting an email out with your login details, and that will also just confirm again the support that's available. And that will include a link to the recording of this demo, a link to a YouTube video, which gives you some more background on Net Promoter Score, very similar to the presentation that I did a few months ago to the managers meeting, and also confirmation of support details. So the person that you can contact with that will be email support during normal office hours, and we aim to get back to you within 24 hours or 1 working day. There'll just be a delay of the weekend, but the emails are obviously going out on a Tuesday, so we've got 3 to 4 working days where you can contact us and get a very speedy response to hopefully sort out any problems that you have. Okay, so that's me done. I'm just going to open up the chat again. So yeah, any more questions, start typing away. So we've got one from Wendy here. So Wendy, when you say personalise your groups, I can read that two ways. The first one would be, we do have some clients who do an NPS for fitness, NPS for classes, NPS for swimming. But the way they do that is that they separate them out by memberships at the email invite stage. So we'd email out one link to their fitness members and one link to their group X and one link to their swimming members. I suspect you don't mean that. I think you probably mean at the other end, can we get an NPS from people that are using different parts? Now, the only way you can do that, hopefully you've seen that, on the detailed reports, you can select someone who's made a comment about different areas. So as long as they've made a comment and they've not left it anonymous, or no, it doesn't matter if it's anonymous, as long as they've left a comment which you can categorize into fitness or classes, then you can work out a net promoter score for those people that are talking about fitness and talking about classes. At the moment, the emails going out won't differentiate between people who are using different parts of the club. They'll only be, you'll end up with an NPS for the club. But what you can do, as I say, is drill down to a certain extent and get an NPS for members that have made a comment that you know is around the fitness, around the gym as compared to around the classes. Okay, hopefully I've answered that. Will owners and managers receive separate logins? At the moment, I believe we're still to get the final email login list. It's possible for us to set up separate ones. I believe initially there will be the one login per club, but if you then want to have two logins, we can do that for you. So start off with the one login, share it, but if you want to split it up and have have two logins, if the two logins are going to have the same level of reporting and security, then you're better off sharing the login. If at a later stage you want to have, if you want your manager, for example, to be able to do to respond to things but not see reports, which is unlikely, then we can set that up at two different logins. Right, question from Joe. So I'm dealing with Vicky on this, and Vicky is putting together that list of email addresses that we would set up with passwords. So if you want to use a particular email or have a particular email that you use for your login, then please drop a line to Vicky as soon as possible, because we're waiting as we speak for confirmation of those final details, so we can then email them out to you ready for next Tuesday. Okay, any other questions? I think I've covered all the questions there. Okay, excellent. I hope that's been useful. I'm going to, as I say, stop recording this, so I'll have a recording of this. We're doing a second one tomorrow. So if you've got a manager, for example, who's not been able to make today, but you want them to attend tomorrow, I'll be doing exactly the same presentation tomorrow. Thanks, Josh, for that. Hope everyone found it useful. We look forward to kicking off next Tuesday. And if further support's required, please email Cheska. And I'm more than happy to do further webinars if required. Okay, I'm going to end the share now. Have a good rest of the day. As I say, look forward to working you over the next couple of weeks with this first episode. Cheers, everyone. Bye now.